couple things to learn from this interaction. I would say the most important thing to remember when you are speaking with people with disabilities is that you speak to them, not like through another person to them. Even if they're using an interpreter, like if they use ASL, speak and look directly at them, and the interpreter will do their job and voice for them and interpret as need be. But they're usually really good at expressing themselves and answering questions, and like it's sort of, I would say it's a little infantilizing to feel like you can't talk directly to a person with a disability because you think that they're not able to answer. Yeah. So I think that, again, talking to the person, not to whoever is with them, whether it be a care attendant, whether it be a friend, a parent, peers, etc., like always default to talking to the person. And then if they need assistance with communication, like if someone helps them, if they have like a talking device on their iPad or something, then you can go from there. Also using either person first language or identity first language, which really just depends on the person themselves. I used identity first language, so I always refer to myself as a disabled person. But some people like to say that they're a person with a disability, and it's like you just figure out how they like to identify themselves, and then kind of reflect that back to them. And then just talk to them like they're a person, because they are. So, this is probably going to make some able-bodied people uncomfortable. Or, well, I should say it might make some non-disabled people uncomfortable. But saying the word handicap. I know a lot of older disabled people still use the word handicap because that's what they grew up with. That's how they were told and, like, learned how to identify themselves. But we don't really use that anymore. We also don't use the word cripple. That is, especially coming from non-disabled people, it's like a slur. So that's just like no-go. But a lot of disabled people do try to reclaim that, so they'll use it to describe themselves or their disabled friends. That's their business. If they are disabled, I'm like, more power to you. Reclaim whatever feels right. I'm trying to think of some other ones that we don't say. We don't say GIMP. That's also super outdated. A lot of these things have historically been used as slurs or derogatory, in order to like minimize the humanity of people with disabilities. What else? Am I missing any other words? Oh, like, I know another one. What is it? Oh, yes, the R word. I don't even like to say it out loud. If we want to type it, we can. But don't say the R word. That one, to me, is like the most egregious. As a person with a developmental disability, I'm like, let's not say that, actually. And just using, like, in place of those words, using disabled, using, if you're talking about something that is made for people with disabilities, saying it's accessible technology or an accessible parking spot rather than saying it's a handicap parking spot, or like a special needs technology. That's another one that I know a lot of parents of children with disabilities use, is special needs or special education, because that's how the school system works. And that's what a lot of people and special education teachers are taught to use. But yeah, just not being afraid to say the word disabled. Disabled isn't a dirty word. It's not a bad word. It's just a descriptive word. So like using that first and foremost, and then all the other ones just don't. So I have had that happen a couple times, like where it's usually older people that I've met. Again, they're usually the people that I notice use specifically the word handicap more often. So I'll just go, oh, I just identify as disabled, not handicapped. And usually that's enough to like kind of course correct the conversation. I know not everyone would be receptive to that correction. They might be like, well, why can't I just use the words that I want to use? And I'm like, well, you can. I just want to talk to you. And I think just knowing that, like, you as a disabled person know yourself best, and I might not like the word handicap. I might not like the word cripple. I might not like the R word. I might not like all of these things for me. And I would never use them for other people. But if they use that for themselves, also respecting their choice to do that when they identify themselves. But yeah, I think just knowing that you're the one with the knowledge and the power in that situation, and someone just genuinely might not know that we don't use those words anymore. And turning it into kind of like a learning moment rather than like a, oh gosh, I don't know how to like deal with confrontation. It doesn't have to be confrontational. It can be educational and be like, oh, I don't know if you knew, but this is actually what we use now instead.